I walked into a bar during open mic night. On stage, my fiancée was laughing with a guy and said, "My boyfriend doesn't know anything. Tonight I'm going all out." Then she kissed him. The crowd clapped. Then she looked down and saw me standing there. I did not plan to go out that night. The bar was not on my way home, and live music had never been my thing after long shifts. I had finished late, my phone was nearly dead, and all I wanted was a quiet drink before heading back to the apartment. The place was louder than usual, music bleeding into the street, people packed shoulder to shoulder near the entrance. I hesitated for a second, then stepped inside, telling myself I would stay 10 minutes at most. The room smelled like spilled beer and warm lights. A handwritten sign near the bar announced open mic night. Someone was already on stage, and the crowd was in a generous mood, laughing too hard at jokes that were not that funny. I threaded my way toward the bar, scanning for an empty stool, when I heard a laugh that did not belong to the room. It cut through the noise because I had heard it every day for 3 years. I looked up. She was on stage. For a second my brain rejected it, like a bad visual glitch. The woman standing under the lights, microphone in hand, smiling with the kind of confidence she usually saved for friends' weddings, was my fiancée, Lily. She had told me she was meeting coworkers for a birthday drink across town. I had not questioned it. There had been no reason to. She stood close to a man I did not recognize, tall, relaxed, clearly comfortable on stage. Later I would learn his name was Jordan Blake, but in that moment he was just some guy with a guitar and a grin that suggested he thought he owned the room. The crowd leaned forward when Lily spoke again, already warmed up, already in control. She started with casual observations about relationships, about how boring commitment could be if you let it become routine, about how people stayed in things long after they stopped feeling alive. The room laughed. I stayed where I was, half hidden near a support pillar, watching as if my body had forgotten how to move. Then she said it. She joked that her boyfriend did not know anything, that tonight she was going all out. The words landed cleanly. The room erupted. Jordan leaned into the bit. Playing along like this was all part of the script. Lily turned toward him, laughing, and kissed him. Not a quick peck meant to shock. A real kiss. Comfortable. Familiar. The applause was immediate and loud. I felt heat crawl up my neck. Not the cinematic kind where time slows and everything goes quiet, but the opposite. The noise pressed in harder. Someone behind me laughed and said this was better than anything streaming right now. A phone rose into the air a few feet from my shoulder. Another followed. On stage, Lily pulled back from the kiss, still smiling, until her eyes dropped slightly. She saw me. It was not dramatic. There was no scream, no gasp. Her face simply emptied. The smile did not fall so much as it stopped existing. Her posture shifted, shoulders tightening, and for a brief second we just looked at each other. The crowd did not notice yet. They were still clapping, still riding the moment they thought they understood. Jordan noticed. He followed her line of sight and saw me standing there, not moving, not reacting. Confusion crossed his face, then calculation. The host, a man named Kevin Moore, stepped forward too quickly, clapping his hands and thanking them both before the silence could spread. The music kicked back in. The moment was smoothed over for the room, but it was already ruined for the people inside it. I did not leave. I did not confront her. I stayed where I was and watched her walk off stage, disappearing behind a black curtain that led to a narrow hallway. Jordan followed a few seconds later, his confidence visibly shaken. People around me buzzed, replaying the kiss, speculating loudly about whether it had been real or staged. At the bar, I ordered a drink I did not want. The bartender, Ben Crawford, slid it toward me and asked casually if I was okay. I did not answer. He glanced back toward the stage area, then back at me, and something in his expression shifted. Recognition, maybe. He asked if I was Lily's fiancée. I nodded. He did not look surprised. That was the part that hurt more than the kiss. He told me, carefully, that Lily had been coming here on open mic nights for a while, that she always signed up alone, that she never mentioned a fiancé. He said it like someone delivering weather news, not gossip, as if it had never occurred to him that the information might matter. A woman slid onto the stool next to me without asking. She introduced herself as Rachel Dunn, another performer. She said she had seen Lily here at least 3 times. She said Lily liked attention and knew how to work a crowd. She did not sound judgmental, just factual. She asked if I was okay too, then admitted she had assumed Lily was single like everyone else. Behind the curtain, raised voices leaked into the bar. Not clear enough to make out words, but sharp enough to signal panic. I saw Tina Alvarez, the event coordinator, blocking the hallway entrance, speaking quickly into her phone. Jordan emerged alone a moment later, his face tight, scanning the room until he spotted me. He hesitated, then turned away, grabbing his jacket from a chair and leaving through the side exit without looking back. My phone buzzed in my pocket, then buzzed again. I did not check it. I finished the drink I had not wanted and set the glass down untouched by the second half. I walked out without saying goodbye to anyone. The apartment was dark when I got home. Lily was not there. Her shoes were gone. I moved through the room slowly, not because I expected surprises, but because everything suddenly felt unfamiliar. In the bedroom, the engagement ring box sat open on the dresser. Empty. That alone told me more than any explanation could have. In the kitchen trash, I found a crumpled receipt from a music store. 2 microphones. Purchased weeks ago. I sat at the table and finally looked at my phone. Missed calls. Messages piling up, some from Lily, some from unknown numbers. One from my sister Maya, asking what was going on and why Lily was crying on the phone. I did not respond to any of them. What happened on that stage was not a mistake made in the heat of the moment. It had a setup, a rhythm, a confidence that came from repetition. As the noise of the bar replayed in my head, I understood that what I had seen was not the beginning of something. It was the middle, and I had just walked in at the exact moment she forgot who was watching. I did not sleep. The apartment stayed quiet until morning, the kind of quiet that presses on your ears and makes every thought louder than it should be. By sunrise, my phone had stopped vibrating, not because people had lost interest, but because the story had already spread without my participation. Silence, I learned quickly, does not slow anything down. I left the apartment early, taking nothing with me except my wallet and keys. Lily still was not home. On the kitchen counter, her laptop sat open, paused on a draft document titled with a venue name I recognized from our wedding planning spreadsheet. The date on the document was from 3 weeks earlier. I closed it without reading further and walked out. At work, people pretended not to notice me. That courtesy lasted less than an hour. A coworker pulled me aside and asked if everything was okay, then mentioned seeing a clip online that looked a lot like Lily. I did not ask which platform. It did not matter. Once something like that exists, it does not stay in one place. During lunch, my sister Maya called again. I answered this time. She did not yell or cry. She told me Lily had shown up at her place in tears, talking fast, asking for help explaining things. Maya told her to leave. That was all she said about it. Then she asked me what I needed. I told her nothing. That was not entirely true, but it was the only honest answer I could give. By the time I got home that evening, Lily was waiting in the living room. She stood up too quickly when I walked in, as if she had rehearsed the motion. Her eyes were red, her voice already forming words I did not want to hear. I raised a hand, not aggressively, just enough to stop the flood before it started. I told her I was not interested in explanations. I told her I needed time and space. She tried to argue that it was performance, that it was misunderstood, that the crowd had pushed it further than she intended. None of it matched what I had seen. None of it matched the receipts in the trash or the ring missing from the box. She followed me from room to room anyway, talking faster when I stayed quiet. She said Jordan meant nothing. She said she did not think I would ever show up there. That sentence stuck with me longer than the rest. I packed a bag and left again, this time without telling her where I was going. I stayed with a friend that night, someone far enough removed from our shared circle that there would be no pressure to pick sides. I barely slept. Sometime after midnight, a message came through from an unfamiliar name. Eric Nolan. He said he had been at the bar a few weeks earlier, had recognized Lily from the clip, and thought I deserved to know something. Eric told me Lily had kissed him on stage too. Same setup, same joke, same confidence. He said he had believed it was harmless until he saw the video from my night. He sent a screenshot of a message Lily had sent him afterward, thanking him for being a good sport. The timestamp predated our engagement photo shoot. I did not reply. I did not need to. The next morning, I logged into our joint accounts for the first time since the engagement. I had trusted Lily with the planning side of things, happy to let her manage deposits and schedules while I focused on work. The trust evaporated quickly. 2 deposits had been partially refunded without my knowledge. A transfer labeled creative expenses had been routed to an account I did not recognize. I followed the trail carefully, not because I suspected criminal intent, but because I needed to understand how long this had been happening. Emails filled in the gaps. A separate account, tied to Lily's name but never mentioned to me, held correspondence with multiple venues. Booking confirmations, equipment rentals, performance schedules. She had been building something parallel to our life together, brick by brick, while standing next to me every night asking what I wanted for dinner. By noon, the video had reached my parents. They did not call immediately. When they did, they were calm and careful, asking what was true and what was rumor. I told them exactly what I knew and nothing more. Lily's parents called later. That conversation was shorter. They were still in damage control mode, not yet ready to acknowledge reality. Jordan released a short message online that afternoon, distancing himself from the situation and stating he had been misled. It was not defensive. It was factual. The comment section did the rest. By evening, Lily's name was attached to every version of the story, none of them flattering. She tried again that night, calling from a blocked number. I did not answer. She sent messages instead, shifting tone with each one. Apology turned to anger, anger turned to bargaining. She said I was ruining her future by not standing by her publicly. That was the moment something inside me settled into place. This was no longer about a kiss on a stage. It was about control. I contacted the venue the next day and canceled our booking. The contract allowed it under misrepresentation clauses. The coordinator did not argue. She had already seen the clip. Catering followed. Photographer. Planner. Each cancellation was a clean cut, not emotional, just procedural. Money returned to accounts Lily no longer had access to. By the time Lily realized what was happening, it was too late to stop it. She showed up at my friend's place unannounced, her composure gone, her voice sharp with panic. I did not open the door. I told her through it that communication would happen through lawyers if necessary. That word ended the conversation faster than shouting ever could. That night, I learned another bar had canceled her upcoming performance. Then another. The open mic circuit was small. People talked. Patterns emerged. Venues did not want drama attached to their stages. I sat alone in a borrowed room, watching the fallout spread outward like ripples, and understood something clearly for the first time since walking into that bar. The applause had not been the shocking part. The shocking part was how many people already knew who she was pretending to be, and how long she had been practicing in public, assuming I would never be standing there to see it. By the third day, the story no longer felt like something that had happened to me. It felt like a system I had stepped into late, one that had been running smoothly without my input for a long time. Once I stopped reacting and started observing, patterns became visible everywhere. I took time off work, not because I was overwhelmed, but because I needed uninterrupted hours to untangle what Lily had built. I sat at a desk with my laptop, a notebook, and a printed copy of our original wedding plan. I did not rush. I treated it like a project that had gone off track, something that needed to be audited carefully before anything else could move forward. The separate email account was the first real confirmation that this was not impulsive behavior. It had structure, folders, color-coded labels. Bookings were organized by venue, by date, by expected turnout. Lily had written confidently to managers, negotiating time slots and equipment needs. She sounded professional, practiced, and entirely unlike the person who had told me she was just exploring a hobby. One message chain stood out. It was between Lily and a venue manager named Paul Henson, dated 6 weeks earlier. He thanked her for another strong set and asked if she wanted to headline a theme night later in the month. She replied enthusiastically and mentioned that she was refining a particular relationship angle that audiences responded well to. Reading that sentence, I understood that what I had seen on stage was not a mistake or a lapse in judgment. It was a tested routine. I contacted the venue under the pretense of clarifying billing questions. Paul responded quickly, assuming I was part of Lily's team. He spoke openly, praising her ability to read a room and generate attention. When I asked how long she had been performing there, he said since late summer. That timeline overlapped neatly with the period when Lily had started coming home later and speaking vaguely about work stress. Another name surfaced next. Tina Alvarez, the event coordinator from the bar where everything had collapsed. I had not planned to reach out, but she contacted me first. She said she felt uncomfortable after seeing how things unfolded and wanted to be transparent. Tina told me Lily had pitched herself as single, ambitious, and eager to build a local following. She said Lily had mentioned a long-term relationship only once, and even then framed it as something she was considering leaving behind. That reframing was more painful than the kiss. Over the next 2 days, more people reached out. Some were well-meaning, others curious, a few clearly entertained by the situation. Eric Nolan checked in again, this time sending a short voice message explaining that Lily had told him she avoided serious relationships because they limited her creativity. Rachel Dunn sent a brief apology for not saying something sooner, though she admitted she had no concrete reason to question Lily's story at the time. Meanwhile, Lily's narrative began to fracture publicly. At first, she tried to lean into the idea that it was all performance art, misunderstood by people eager for drama. That angle collapsed once other men came forward independently, each describing similar encounters, similar language, similar timing. She then shifted to blaming pressure, exhaustion, and feeling unseen. That explanation did not survive contact with the financial records. The joint account had been used strategically, small withdrawals spaced far enough apart to avoid attention. Transfers routed through intermediary accounts labeled with vague descriptions. None of it was illegal, but all of it was deliberate. I froze what I could and documented everything else. I did not confront her with it. Evidence does not gain strength from being waved around. Our families finally spoke directly. Lily's parents asked to meet. I agreed, choosing a neutral location during the day. They arrived looking tired and defensive. I laid out what I knew calmly, showing them timelines, receipts, and correspondence. I did not editorialize. By the end of the meeting, they were quiet. Her mother apologized, not for Lily's actions, but for assuming this was a misunderstanding. Her father asked what I planned to do next. I told him I was finishing what I needed to finish. The pressure on Lily increased quickly after that. Venues canceled without explanation. Her employer requested a meeting to discuss reputational concerns tied to the viral clip. Friends who had supported her at first began to distance themselves once contradictions became impossible to ignore. She tried reaching me through mutual contacts, then through my parents, then through my workplace. I maintained the same boundary every time. I learned from Tina that the open mic community had started comparing notes. Performers talked. Coordinators shared experiences quietly. Lily's name came up often enough that bookings slowed to a stop. The stage that had given her control now reflected her back to herself, stripped of context and sympathy. One afternoon, I received a message from Jordan Blake. He apologized again, more directly this time. He said he had believed Lily was single and ambitious, nothing more. He said once he understood the situation, he stepped away completely. I accepted the apology without drama. He was not the center of this. The center was the realization that Lily had been testing how far she could go without consequence. Each stage, each crowd, each kiss had been a data point. What she miscalculated was the moment when the experiment would intersect with the life she had built elsewhere. By the end of the week, the apartment no longer felt like shared space. I arranged for movers to collect my belongings while Lily was away, coordinating with the building manager to avoid a confrontation. I left behind what was not mine and documented the rest. Clean exits do not announce themselves. That evening, I sat alone again, but this time the silence was different. It was not heavy. It was organized. The chaos had peaked and was beginning to settle into consequences that did not require my involvement to continue. I thought back to the stage lights, the laughter, the applause. What had looked spontaneous now appeared rehearsed, polished, and hollow. Lily had not been living two lives accidentally. She had been practicing one in public, assuming the other would remain invisible. She was wrong, and the next part would not be decided by her performance. The final shift did not arrive with noise or confrontation. It arrived quietly, through paperwork, schedules, and the absence of Lily from places she once occupied easily. By the time the fourth week began, the story had stopped being entertainment for strangers and started becoming a problem that followed her into rooms where applause did not exist. I finalized the last of the cancellations early in the week. The venue refunded the remaining balance without delay. The planner confirmed everything in writing. The photographer returned the deposit in full. Each email was polite, brief, and final. None of them asked for explanations anymore. They already knew enough. I met with a lawyer once, not to escalate, but to make sure the exit was clean. We reviewed the shared accounts, the lease, and the documentation I had collected. There was no dramatic legal battle waiting to happen. The situation did not require it. Everything Lily had done fell into the category of poor judgment rather than criminal behavior. That distinction mattered, because it meant the consequences would be social and professional, not procedural. Lily attempted one last shift in strategy. She released a statement online, carefully worded, acknowledging mistakes while reframing them as growth moments. It lasted less than a day before people began responding with receipts, timelines, and clips from multiple venues. The comment sections filled with comparisons she could not control. The internet did what it always does when someone tries to edit a story after too many people already own pieces of it. Her employer placed her on indefinite leave pending review. Friends stopped tagging her in posts. Invitations slowed, then stopped entirely. The same community that had once celebrated her confidence now treated her like a liability. Reputation is not lost all at once. It erodes in small, quiet decisions made by people who do not want to be associated with uncertainty. Jordan and Eric both made it clear publicly that they wanted no further involvement. Their statements were short and unemotional. That mattered. There was no villain left for Lily to point at. No rival. No enemy. Just a pattern that had been exposed. My own life settled faster than I expected. Work returned to normal. People stopped asking questions once they realized there would be no dramatic answers. I moved into a new place, closer to my office, and furnished it slowly. I did not rush to replace what had been shared. I allowed the space to become something separate. The last interaction with Lily happened by email. She asked if there was any chance of speaking in person, if only for closure. I replied that closure does not require an audience. I told her I wished her well and asked her not to contact me again. That message did not carry anger or forgiveness. It carried finality. She did not reply. Weeks later, I ran into Tina Alvarez at a coffee shop. She recognized me immediately and apologized again for not intervening earlier. I told her there had been nothing to intervene in at the time. People believe the stories they are given. Responsibility comes later. She mentioned that open mic nights at the bar had changed slightly since everything happened. New guidelines, clearer expectations, less tolerance for shock-driven routines that crossed personal lines. I nodded, understanding that Lily's fallout had rippled outward in ways neither of us could have predicted. From time to time, I still saw Lily's name surface online, usually attached to speculative posts or vague updates. She tried new angles, new explanations. None of them lasted. Without access to the stage that had protected her, the narrative collapsed under its own inconsistencies. What stayed with me was not the humiliation of that first night, but the clarity that followed. I had walked into a room and seen something I was never meant to see, not because it was hidden poorly, but because it had been hidden in plain sight. The applause had made it feel safe. The crowd had made it feel temporary. It was neither. Consequences do not always arrive as punishment. Sometimes they arrive as the removal of conditions that allowed behavior to thrive. Lily lost the rooms that rewarded her. I lost the future I thought I was building. The difference was that I walked away with agency intact. There was no public victory, no moment of triumph. Just a series of decisions that closed doors quietly and permanently. The stage lights moved on to other performers. The bar found new stories to amplify. Life continued without asking for commentary. And I continued too, not defined by what I saw that night, but by what I refused to ignore once I had seen it.